What does the Bible actually say about tattoos? Maybe someone has told you tattoos are a sin, or you're a tattoo artist like me and someone has used the Bible against you. Or maybe you're just a Christian who loves your ink and you're carrying guilt you were never meant to carry. And if you stick with me through this entire video, I'm going to give you some actual biblical answers. Not an opinion, not a tradition, the text itself. And you're going to have ammunition to respond clearly and confidently the next time someone comes at you with that Bible verse. Now here's what we're going to go over. Every verse people use to condemn tattoos, what those verses say in the context, what the New Testament says, and what it doesn't say, and where the Bible actually focuses attention. Because that's where it all comes together. Now let's start where everyone quotes Leviticus 19:28. Do not put tattoo marks on yourself. This is the only verse in the Bible that actually directly mentions tattoos, and most people stop reading there. They built the entire case off that sequence. But Leviticus 19 is part of what scholars call the Holiness Code. These were laws written specifically to ancient Israel to separate them from the surrounding pagan nations, because those nations were actually cutting themselves and marking their bodies as acts of worship to false gods. So God wasn't saying that tattoos are evil. He's saying, don't worship idols like the other nations do. Now here's your ammunition for the next time someone throws that at you. The same chapter, the same verse says, don't cut the sides of your hair. Like, don't get a haircut. Don't trim your beard. Don't wear two different types of fabric together, which is like all of our clothing. Don't plant two crops in the same field. I mean, you have to ask them, are you following all of these? Because you don't just get to apply one verse and then ignore everything else around it. Those were ceremonial laws for specific people at a specific time, not universal moral laws for the New Testament church. Galatians 3 and Hebrews 8 both address how Christ fulfills the ceremonial law. Not my opinion. That's the text in the Bible. Now let's talk about the New Testament, because that's where it gets really important. Jesus never mentioned tattoos. Not once. Not in the Gospels, not in the Sermon on the Mount, which I have tattooed on my hand. Not anywhere. Paul never mentions tattoos. Not once. The entire New Testament is silent on the subject. Now here's why it matters, because Paul addressed everything that was culturally relevant. Food sacrificed to idols, circumcision, head coverings, marriage and divorce, slavery. Tattoos existed in Greek, Roman, and Egyptian culture. It's been going on since before written history, whether you want to believe it or not. Paul knew about them. If had them, who knows? And if they were sinful, well, I'm sure he would have said something. But he didn't. The silence is not an accident, it's significant. Don't let someone build a case against you from what the Bible doesn't say. Now let's deal with the verse people use most often, which is 1 Corinthians 6:19. Your body's a temple of the Holy Spirit. That sounds convincing until you read the whole passage. Paul's responding to a specific crisis in the Corinthian church. Men were visiting prostitutes and justifying it theologically. Paul's entire argument is about sexual immorality, about joining your body to a prostitute. He's not making a statement about your ink. He's not making a statement about art or self-expression. He's addressing sexual sin, period. So here's your ammunition. Next time someone uses that verse against you, ask them to read the verses before and after it. The context destroys the argument. Now here's where it all comes together. Here's what God actually says about the outside of a person. 1 Samuel 16:7. The man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. That's the clearest statement God makes about external appearances. He's not looking at your sleeve. He's not looking at your ink or your tattoos. He's looking at what sits on the throne of your heart. I had tattoos on my skin when Jesus called me. He didn't ask me to remove them. He asked me to follow him. That's the gospel. So here's where I land after 26 years of tattooing. The Bible does not make a clear New Testament case against tattoos. Let me repeat that. The Bible does not make a clear New Testament case against tattoos. Christianity is not a religion of external rules. It's internal transformation. Romans 12:2 says, "Be transformed by the renewing of your mind." That works from the inside out, from the outside in. Now, does that mean anything goes? No. There are tattoos I won't do. There are images connected to darkness that I won't put my hands on. Not because there's a rule book. That's because of my own conviction. That comes from walking with God, not from a list of rules. So let me leave you with this. The question was never really about tattoos. It was always about, who are you living for? What is shaping your identity? Whose voice are you following? Because a tattoo is just ink and skin. But the answer to those questions determine everything. Now, if this gives you clarity, share it with someone who needs it. Drop a question in the comments. I read every single one. I'll respond. Please subscribe, because there's a lot more where this came from.